Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friends Dan and Angel, Catherine, Karen, Jason, and Lori. And today we are going to continue our discussion of the book Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. And we're on chapter 4 still. And chapter 4 talks a lot about how to get what you want and manifest your desires. The last couple of sessions, we've been discussing all the different ways we sabotage ourselves. And last week, we were asked to release our picture of love so that we could experience more love. Today, we're going to talk about allowing ourselves to feel the wondrousness of all that is, how that can lead to our desires, and what our real purpose is in this existence. But before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, I want to give you an opportunity to be able to participate with us next time. So if you'd like to do that, you can find us in our Facebook group, which is mindsetmasterycollective.com. That will direct you to our Facebook group. And if you're watching right now live on Facebook, give us a comment below the video. Let us know that you're hanging out there with us. And comment as we go through what we're going to be talking about, because we'd love to hear from you as well. And if you want to participate with us next time, all you got to do is just request to do so in our Facebook group, or just click on the link that I provide there each week. So if you're watching on YouTube, then give us a like, subscribe to our channel so that you can get updated each time we upload a new video. And there'll be some links below this video where you can find us on Facebook and and also get copies of the book that we are reading. So guys, jump out, introduce yourselves, and then we can get our chat going this week.
I'm Angel Studebaker down here in Beaufort, South Carolina.
I'm Karen Lohoff in Mesa, Arizona.
Hey, Jason.
Hello, it's Catherine in Shawnee, Oklahoma.
And Jason Roberts in Tampa Bay, Florida.
Dan Sisek in Las Vegas, Nevada.
What was I just going to say? Oh, okay. So I was going to read a little section here as we were kind of moving into this other part of chapter 4. There's so much in this chapter to talk about. And, I know sometimes when we go through books, we go through them really quick. And then other books, we'll be on a chapter continuously week after week. And it seems like this chapter is one of those ones. One day I read through this one little section, and then I just started writing all these notes in my notebook, and I ended up with like 3 pages of stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this one little thing sparked all these thoughts. And I want to be able to share all that with you guys, and I know if it's making me think about it, it's got to be making you guys think about it too. So last week we talked about releasing our picture of love so that we can experience more love. And basically, I think that what we kind of got from that was that we tend to have this narrow idea of something, whether it be love or anything. And because we have this one little tiny idea of what it should be, we miss out on all of the different ways that it can be something more or different than what we think that we want. And that's one way they were trying to communicate to us about our desires, is that when we want something in life and we visualize it, or we write it down, or we do whatever we've learned to do up until this point, is that we actually can limit it by being too specific in our desires. And so that was kind of what the message of that part was. They're trying to teach us, at least that's kind of the impression that I got. But moving on to this other section, just want to read this little section here. It says, vibrationally, no resistance is a form of love, but when you can marry that love with the love of all, or when you can move from just loving the individualized you into the expansion of the you that is all, everything will come in greater ways than you can imagine. In other words, it goes beyond just loving yourself and getting what you want. And at the same time, there's no goal to reach. You are here to feel good, and divine love feels good. In a place of total divine love, there is no judgment. That which you call good or bad. there's simply no judgment, and in a place where there is no judgment, that which is called simply comes. And I thought, this is just really interesting. So it's talking about where there is no judgment, that which is called forth just comes. So it's like when we don't judge the thing that we're hoping for, or we don't place limitations on it, then it can come to us easier. So it's basically just saying judgment or limited ideas of things is actually a form of resistance. And so, and we've talked about that quite a bit, I think, but I really wanted to get into this part where he's talking about there being no goal to reach. It says there's no goal to reach. You are here to feel good, and divine love feel good. And so one of the things that came across my mind as I was reading that and thinking about it, I was like, okay, so there is no purpose other than feeling good, feeling the love of yourself and all that is, allowing ourselves to feel the wondrousness of all that is. But we have this feelings, like if we think about it that way. So let's talk about that for just a little bit, because it's talking about no goal to reach. And yet as humans, we always think that there's a goal in life, that there's some thing that we're supposed to do or some stuff we're supposed to accomplish, and that we aren't living the full human life unless we're successful, and success means accomplishing stuff or accumulating things or whatever. So what do you guys think about this little concept that's brought up here, right here, where it's talking about no goal to reach, but that we are here to just feel good and feel divine love? What do you think about that?
What page is that on that you're reading that from? Because I want to read through that myself and help formulate my.
Well, on my Kindle version, when I printed it out, it says page 73, but I don't know how accurate that is, because every time I would adjust the screen size, it would tell me a different page number, but it's not that far. It's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so paragraphs into chapter 4, give or take. It started in.
Okay,
Find it.
I think I found it.
Okay.
As far as I had a thought on that. Maybe it's kind of saying, like, it's not about the destination, but more about the journey kind of thing, kind of saying it in other words, like we shouldn't focus so much on the destination that we forget about what's along the journey and how we grow or what we do or who we encounter, how we just take the journey. I think that's kind of what it's referring to, because if we focus so much on the destination, we're so concentrated on that, it's kind of like you're so focused on the future that you forget to look at the present and what's going on in the present and what you have in the present, kind of thing. So I think that's just kind of what it was maybe referring to, is it instead of not looking at it as not having a goal, just not focusing so much on that destination that you forget about how you got there or the way to get there, maybe. So that's all I have.
An experience that I kind of relate to being with the people that I'm with in here is we are several different ages, but primarily I would say the majority of people here are in their 80s. And nonetheless, there's a lot of self-assertion. I went to get ice and water, for me during this period of time that I'm kind of stepped on me and, was anxious to get a particular cup. And we're going through this whole list of whose cup is whose. And there's just a lot of times that there's kind of some raucousness over um, whatever it might be. And I'm not used to having people talk about calming down, calm down, calm down. And it's interesting that we're hearing that. And I generally feel more calm than I have for many years. I mean, I just, whatever happens, happens. I can get away and I can get on my computer and I can, just, be in my own world. So I don't worry too much about what happens when we get together, like for meals and stuff. But it interests me that still at the end of life, people are fighting over things. And, that's having your own goal. That's having your own aim to have things be a particular way. And I just really enjoy it that I feel less like I have to pursue a goal. I can do it if I want to, and I don't have to do it if I don't feel like it. So that does allow me a lot more peace. I don't know that I feel necessarily a lot more love, but I think peace is definitely on the scale towards love.
Yeah, I'll jump out, and because listening to a little bit what you were saying, Karen, and then what Samantha, I think a way that I can maybe is relating to is like how we talk about the rat race, how we're, trying to go do this, but like a lot of us have realized, I think maybe during this last year with this pandemic and stuff, that we're realizing that a lot of what we really are looking for and what we really are desiring is that genuine, I think in a sense, free floating time when we spend time with each other, just where there's no real set thing put out and it just kind of flows, and like, and we are putting up more of appreciation on that because we realize that that's kind of more what matters. It's not so much of, being out there doing this, producing that and stuff. And that's all, it's all good and dandy and has a place in our lives to help move us. And I think going back to some of the things as we talked about in that one book about time, and how time is and how we looked at time, that's part of the way. But I think when we're really like here in here, when I'm on here and doing this, there's a sense and a joy and a peace and a collective feeling I think we all get when we're all here and together and just enjoying each other, but also speaking about whatever comes up through whatever we're, through a guided, a book that we use, but we don't narrow ourselves into, and we kind of let whatever. So I think in that we are really inner inner flowing, or I can't explain it in a way I'm trying in my head, but we're feeling more of, I think, the real vibrational connectivity to each other than we are as if we were just, doing the normal everyday this, that, whatever, I think it's, and there's some intention in that too. And I think that's part of what helps, make it what this community is and how we all feel about each other. And I think that's, something that more and more of what the world is looking for, what the world wants, I think.
I think that we are trained for pretty much from day one that love is conditional, and here on earth it is. I mean, even with little kids, we love our little kids, of course, and stuff, but we get angry at them when they do bad shit, what we think is bad shit, or they're aggravating us or whatever, and we get the face and we do the finger and they go in timeout, or you used to get your ass beat or whatever. But we're kind of taught from day one that love is based on you behaving in a certain way. And then I think we just automatically translate that in our little minds to, I have to do this in order to earn love. And then our little bit older minds translate that into, especially, and I hate to say this and forgive me, but if we are taken to church and we're taught doctrine, and if we do this, God doesn't love, then we're taught that God doesn't love us. I mean, it's one thing to think that our parents don't love us for a minute, but then we're taught that God doesn't love us if we do or act certain ways. And we all act and do things that we don't necessarily plan to, or it's not like we're trying to be bad. I remember so many times my grandkids would say, oh, I'm not trying to be bad, So I think people judge themselves because they feel like, if they don't accomplish a certain thing in this life, that it's a fail. Like this life is a pass fail, or that life in general is like a pass fail kind of thing. And it's not. Or I don't believe it is. I shouldn't say that like it's fact, but I don't think it is. I think it's an experience. And I don't think God sits up there and judges us on anything, really. I just don't, because there's too many expressions of God here. How would you, if you were God, just pretend you're God for a minute, which they say we are, so that should be easy. If you want to compare, say, somebody like the vice president compared to somebody who has, lives in a small village somewhere or something, and you're just comparing, somebody that does public service 24 hours a day for their whole life, basically. I don't know if you've watched any documentaries about any of our politicians or stuff, but I mean, they lead these lives that are just like, I'm like, oh my God, it just exhausts me. Or like these athletes that lead these lives where they just accomplish goal after goal after goal. I mean, do you really think, or if you were God, do you really, would you love that person more because they were busy 24 hours a day compared to the person in the little village that, has never accomplished a quote goal, but they are very tender and care for, the sick people in the village or something? I mean, how do you compare all these things that we try to compare as humans, and we try to say, well, this person's good because they do this, or this person's bad, and we never even know. Like, we make these judgments and we never even know what the underlying what their quote underlying goal was. Or did they do all of this public service, but they were really, in their hearts, they hated it, and they regretted every day of their life that they had to live this way, and as opposed to somebody else that gives freely. So how far do you look before you judge? That's why I think there can't be any judgment. That's why I believe that there's no judgment, because I've tried to figure out, if I was God, how could I judge that? And I just haven't been able to figure it out, because you just never know what drives people to do things. I've had a lot of the state of affairs in the world has really caused my head to spin around on its axis multiple times. And I look, I am having trouble not judging myself for some of my thoughts and beliefs right now, because I would have to characterize my way of thinking as magical thinking. I do have magical thinking. And yet, and I don't want to bring up politics, because I know that everybody on this panel has different beliefs about that too. And I don't want to get into a political discussion, but I just see on multiple, I'm not talking just politics here, I'm talking about on multiple levels. I see, quote, magical thinking that leads to detrimental things happening to people, whether that be to other people or to people themselves, like people don't take action because they think God's going to step in and save them, or, just all kinds of, I could come up with a million examples. But so I'm, I have to catch myself, because I found myself starting to judge myself about my own magical thinking. And that's why I said last week, the more I know, the less I know, and the more confused I get. And when it's talking about not blocking yourself from getting what you want, I mean, how, and it talks about the universe mirroring vibrations, because I have to say, you guys might think I'm not a skeptic, but I'm fully aware, and don't even want to be more aware than what I am right now, actually, of like marketing techniques. And there's a lot of shit that people say just to sell books and programs, guys. Like, we all know that, right? So some of this stuff you have to kind of take with a grain of salt and kind of feel it out a little bit. But when they say, you have to ask, and then like not judge and be open to receiving, and then the universe mirrors back that vibration to you. Okay, well, how about for somebody like me, who is the most happiest and joyful and peaceful, just being here with you, or just sitting around a campfire at Healing Circle on Sunday nights, surrounded by nature. And that is really what feeds my soul. It just, like, every time I go to Healing Circle, I think if I died right this minute, I'm good. Like, I'm just, you just get in that serenity space. So if that is what I'm telling the universe, that's what brings me peace and comfort and just heaven, basically. That's what brings me heaven on earth. Then I just have to deal with the fact that it doesn't bring me like the money to pay the bills and stuff like that, because money doesn't really bring me happiness. Like, even when I say the word money, I don't feel a happy feeling. Like, so how do you, how this universal vibrational match thing has really got my head spinning right now, you guys.
Yeah, I am totally on that same page with you, Catherine, of that's when I get the most just love. Openness is in those times where there is no pressure to do anything, and there is no pressure to accomplish anything, and I'm not having to worry how the bills are going to get paid, or how this is going to get done, or that's going to get done. And I think that's what they're trying to get us to look at that. And it's like how we can be in that moment and appreciating all that there is, and just experiencing the wondrousness of it all. And then we stop ourselves. We stop ourselves from feeling that, so that we can focus on, oh, now I got to go do the thing so I can pay the bills and do the da and da 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 da. And I wondered, this is the question, isn't it? This is the question right here, is that what if we stayed in that state of wondrousness and we just followed our bliss, if you will, with this, without judging whether we're doing it right or not, or judging whether or not we're doing the right thing to make sure the bills get paid or whatever. And where would that lead us? Because I know that in my life experience, there's been miraculous things that have happened where money has just shown up in one way or another, and things have just managed to work themselves out one way or another. And it's not always how I expect. It's not always something I was specifically wanting per se. But of course, we have all these variables of, okay, we're in bliss right now, but then we have these doubts and we have these judgments about this and that. And so then we start attracting more of this crap we don't want because we're focused on it. And then we get back into our blissful feelings, and then we're like, oh, okay. And so then some things start happening that are positive for us. And then we do this roller coaster. But I wonder, I wonder if that is maybe what, I know it's saying, okay, we don't really have a goal, but what if the goal really is to overcome all of this mumbo jumbo we tell ourselves that we have to do in this human life in order to exist, and simply allow our God selves, our higher selves, to just take care of us, and not by doing it for us necessarily, but by leading us, as it was saying in one of the, I can't remember where it was, but it was talking about how when we are in that love feeling, is that things will pop up in our lives when we say, okay, we have a desire that comes up, and we're experiencing, we're allowing, we're not resisting, and things will pop up that will give us a choice of an action of some sort. And when we take this action, then it opens another door, and then that action leads to another one, and then all of a sudden we have this whatever we were looking for, or maybe it was even better than. And and I've noticed that in a lot of different things that have happened in my life. Like when we had decided that we were going to go full-time RVing and go and just freaking go and make it happen, there kind of at the end, I got all freaked out and we were running out of money. And I'm like, oh, am I doing, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I think back now and I'm like, maybe I did that to myself, by being resistant to just taking a leap of faith, if you will. But when I was like, it's okay, it's all going to work out, everything is, I just started embracing the journey, like you were saying, Angel, as we just embraced this journey, then I had a random check show up in the mail to cover some stuff. I mean, I didn't ask for that. I didn't know where it was coming from. It came from a source that made absolutely no sense to me as to why it came, but it did, and it helped us continue the journey, So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of the question. And this was the thing that kind of popped up when I was thinking about this, is it's like, what, so there's no purpose other than feeling good, feeling the love yourself and all that is. But we judge everything. We say it can't be that simple. There must be some other reason. It can't be that we're just here to have fun, I mean, it can't be that easy. But what if it is? That's the question, isn't it? Because we feel the most love, and the most peace, the most calmness when we are allowing ourselves to feel that, because we can choose not to feel it in any given moment. Even in a situation where we're sitting around the campfire with friends, we could be sitting there judging everybody around the campfire going, I can't believe she's wearing that, da, 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 or I can't believe she just said that to her friend. Or, I mean, we could be sitting there being all judgy about the whole situation, or we could be sitting there totally introspective going, God, I have this bill and that bill, and I really shouldn't be sitting here doing this. I really need to be doing blah, 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 right? Or we can sit and we can experience this love and wondrousness and see the nature around us and hear the the crickets chirping and the frogs making their noise and the fire crackling and seeing the wind blowing the trees and the stars in the sky and just absorbing the amazingness and putting our arm around the person who's next to us and just feeling that person for just the sake of feeling the person. And it's like, don't we really want it to be that way? Isn't that what we ultimately want, is for it to be easy and for it to be blissful like that without all of the stress? I mean, isn't that what the Bible says too, and Jesus says, is to have that, just the faith of a mustard seed, and stay in that faith, right? Because then you can move mountains, and we don't even know how to do it. Just somehow we follow the path of bliss, and then we get led to the things that we actually need to do to accomplish, or not even accomplish, but to experience the desires that come up in us. I mean, I don't know. That's what makes me think about. And, in this part, I'm just like, gosh, do we make it harder than it has to be? How many times have we said that? I know I say that all the time I know I'm making this harder than it has to be.
Yeah, that's interesting because you made me think of a couple things. You made me think of a couple books that we covered too, where I think I see some congruency, or because like in Wayne Dyer, we talked. It talks about getting one with like the yin and the yang and the push, and here I think that's kind of alluding to that too. But I'm going to go from a personal experience just within this last year, because in the job I had, I started it just before we got hit with the lockdowns here in Las Vegas, and everything basically shut down, but essentials. And I got a job that was at a trucking and logistics company, so we were essential. So somehow, I left the job that was a sushi place that would make sushi for a lot of hotels. Now, unbeknownst to me, when I left, I didn't know that this pandemic, but somehow life put me where I needed to be at that point in time to be working and still be able to pay and cover my bills, and how it kind of worked out. I wasn't really stressing or anything, except I knew I wanted to get out of that job and move in something where I felt better use of my skills and abilities. But then in that job, I ended up having a lot of stress and a lot of issues because the controller and I just did not mesh, and she questioned my skills, my abilities constantly, almost daily. She questioned whether I had a degree or not. And I'm like, I can prove I have the degree. So, why are you questioning that? I don't know. And I made it the 90 days, but then she extended my probation, and it's like I was stressing. And so I got so caught up in that, I wasn't able to really rest or relax, or because I was just so frustrated with, okay, how do I have a job? Am I going to come in tomorrow and find out that, okay, well, you're not working out, or you're not and I have my own thoughts about her. I just think she wanted somebody who was a mini carbon copy of her and did things exactly the same way she did things, which yes, the accounting has structure and basis, but how you go through and do the motions sometimes can be done in different ways. And I work differently than her. But, I really got stressed out, and I was having hard times of sleeping and stuff and everything like that. And then when things started to open back up here on June 8th, I mean, that weekend, I literally made the decision that, you know what, I'm just gonna resign because I'm too stressed. I'm not. I got to the point where I think Catherine will say I probably made the right choice, and I know I did. That I was so stressed and so But once I made that decision and sent my email saying I resigned, and I had to print it out and copy it and then resend it with my signature, so she had a signed copy. But I didn't even go in. I didn't even go in. I didn't tell her. I just sent it, and I was done. And that same day, I started Ubering, and all the stress left em- almost immediately. And I just said, you know what? I'll just do this until I find another job, and trust that it will cover what I need to pay my bills. I just went with that flow of the release of the one, but hoping and expecting that I would still be able to live and survive, but not so like this. And I just did it. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about that mustard seed faith. Sometimes we, get so caught up in all the talk and everything in our heads and everything of, well, I can't do this, or what about this? I don't have this, or, you know, and we forget the journey sometimes, I think. And here I am. It's, uh, almost a year since I've been at that place, since I started, and yet I'm surviving. I'm thriving. I'm happy. I'm not as stressed. There are little stresses, but I'm not in that same mode of where I was there. And it was all for the better, even though I just leapt in that, faith, going, whatever happens, happens, and I'll deal with it there. And in a way, it freed me up too now, because now I'm not so caught into, okay, well, if this is this, I just trust and believe that, God, the universe, whatever, will match what I'm needing in order to live and survive. And I'm trying not to put any more boundaries on it than just that. It's hard to do sometimes because I get a bill come up and it's like, oh, that wasn't expected or something like that. But I don't think I'm the same frantic person that I was maybe even a year ago on, oh, how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? And I think, that's part of the growing and learning and trusting. And I think that's the other part of it, is trusting that our steps, and because this goes into the other thought. I was looking at, thinking the universe and the earth and animals and plants and birds and stuff. A lot of them just go, you know, they don't have the abilities to think and reason like we do, but somehow they just go through and do what they're supposed to do. And tr- knowing or whatever or however, you know that what needs to be done is needs to be done. The birds in the air will, trust that they'll find food. Wild animals, yes, they hunt and kill each other, but there's that balance there that keeps it, to in harmony, for lack of a better word. But they're not, they kill when they need to eat and are hungry, but they don't, most of the time, don't really kill just to kill. you know so in that sense, I think that's something that, I'm realizing a little bit and understanding a little better. I still have a long way to go, and I'm still, can get caught up like we all do in the day in and day out little things, and those moments like, oh, now I got to take care of this, I got to take there, you know. So it still is definitely a journey on that part too.
I was just kind of commenting over on the Facebook, just adding a couple of thoughts. And, before the live stream, we were talking about that kid, Ryan, on YouTube, that he's like a big YouTube sensation doing all these fun, just videoing playtime and play dates and silliness and toys and this and that and the other. And I'm like, and then he's somehow managed to generate, lots of money, millions or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, just the idea that, a parent having the thought to, here, let's video the kids having fun, and just having fun with our kids could turn into something that could be financially just make it so they didn't have to do anything other than just have fun with their kids. I mean, it just is like, I don't know, maybe the younger generation has they see these little opportunities and they just start doing, because they're like, I'm not going to conform to this old idea of I have to grow up and get a job and work there for 30 years and screw that crap, because I'm just here to have fun. you know and maybe they have this ability to I don't know. When you're younger, you have more faith anyway, I think, in general. And when you have this, you have less doubts and you have less life kicking you in the ass, and so maybe it's easier for some of these younger generations to just be all, do whatever, just see what happens. Let's just do it and see what happens. Kind of an attitude. I don't know. Or maybe it's different if you haven't, you don't have as many things you are responsible for. I mean, I know, when I was younger and I had 2 kids and we were struggling, it was hard to even think about what might be fun because everything was so difficult, just to get just to make ends meet. And I was never taught anything like that. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, just this whole concept of
Samantha, I'm going to have to counteract that with not just the younger generation. I'm older and retired, have a lot to overcome, so to speak. But the whole idea of being creative rather than competitive, because everything we're talking about is all competing with somebody or something else. And so to be able to create something better that's maybe for the whole world or consciousness, the collective. And when they're talking about manifesting these things, like your car, you're wanting a new car and while you're kicking the tire of your old car, I personally can't think of anything material that I want. Everything is all what is that word I'm trying to think of? Not tangible. It's intangible. It's, things you want inside. I'm not looking to save the world, because I certainly can't do that. But the whole idea of the collective consciousness just blows my mind. It's too much.
I had my youngest brother visit me this week, a night this week, and he's 9 years younger than I am, and we talked about our kids, and we talked about our the generation before us, because he had not really experienced. In my mother's family, she was the oldest of 4, and there were a couple of sisters, and then there was a brother. And he really didn't know them very well. And I was kind of sharing my perception of them, and then I got to talking about my grandmother, and he had not realized that she had been born in the 1800s. She was born in 1892. And we just talked about the kind of life that she had, the things that she had and hadn't had that were materialistic, and just kind of the view that we had of how easy our lives have been compared to hers. We really don't have anything to complain about. Of course, we think we do. When we're complaining, we think we've got things to complain about, but realistically, as far as living a life on the planet, we've had a good life, a relatively easy life. And if you think about it, you think about all the generations before, that's true really of all of them, unless you happen to love, carrying a club around and wearing animal skins and, beating your feet against the rocks and so forth. And I think, that one book, we kind of gained a sense of that we've been through all of these different experiences anyway. We've probably been through all of those generations, or every other generation, or whatever it might be, so that we could experience some of those things for ourselves. I think this is a complicated, a really complicated thing for us to understand how vibration, how energy, how our desires, our goals, all these things, for me, certainly are difficult to grasp. Like, I was thinking, somebody said something, I think it was Catherine, you said, we go to church and then we learn that, of all things, it's not only just our parents that can disapprove of us, but God can disapprove of us and not feel, all schmoozy warm towards us. And I realized that I have been concerned about that my whole life. I don't care how many people tell me God loves you, you're a child of God, all this kind of stuff. If you think, yeah, I shouldn't have done that though. I shouldn't have, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have lived that way. I shouldn't have thought that about somebody else. And I do feel a lot. I think a lot of my greater calmness these days is over the idea, for the most part, I can think to say, I love you, God. I thank you, God. And that's pretty much enough for me, instead of just wearing out my knee bones, which I already did, trying to stick down there long enough on my knees to say a long enough prayer, a meaningful enough prayer to, pass the standards I had set for myself. And I realize I never was taught that I am God, that I am my own creator. I just acted that way, but I acted that way in a negative sense. And it was like, I just really shouldn't have done that. I really wasn't thinking. I really wasn't careful. I really wasn't loving. I really wasn't, all this kind of stuff. So if I can just get it in my mind now that my world has little quail, those little quail with the little things on their heads, they are so cute and they're so fast, and they like, they like follow each other, and it's just fun. They're in my world because I am my own God and I created it that way. And I have little bunnies and I have dogs and I have coyotes. When my brother was down, and I mean, we're from Wyoming, he lives in Salem, Utah, so he's right smack in the middle. And he said, that is really neat that you have those coyotes. He took his phone over there and he recorded them while we were talking. So I'm going to learn to have more fun in my life, just with the nature that I can see and you folks on Saturday. And that's it for the moment.
I love that you shared that, Karen, and a thought that came up in my mind was, what if we just had it all wrong all along? And that, all of this pain and difficulty and frustration and anger and everything that we've experienced, the struggle that we've experienced in our life is all self-created. And if we didn't have to do that, as maybe we could have just been following our bliss all along. It's funny, my husband and I talk sometimes about, the kids these days, and I'm sure that our parents were like, "Oh, the kids these days," and their parents were like, "Oh, the kids these days." But we all thought, as the kids that our parents had it all wrong, right? And we look at the kids these days and so many of them are not wanting to go and get a job and do the thing that we think they're supposed to do. They're just like following their bliss, and yet we see this family with the Ryan kid on YouTube making millions just following their bliss. And we see this in a number of different young folks on the internet just taking advantage of, oh, here I'm an influence with 50,000 million followers and I can make $1,000, no problem. All I got to do is just say, hey, buy this thing, because they're following their bliss, and and yet, we've struggled, but our parents struggled more than we did. Their parents struggled more than they did. Maybe we need to be looking at the youth of today and going, okay, maybe they've got something there. It may not be exactly what we think. But I mean, they are the future, right? What does the future look like if everyone's just following their bliss? I mean, what would that be like? We like to think as our, arrogant selves that a world like that would just be complete chaos and there would be no order and there would be nobody could pay their bills and have a house and whatever else, but maybe we're wrong. Yeah, maybe we're wrong. So.
How
I'll
about
throw.
nobody has
Oh,
bills?
Say that again, Lori. I didn't hear you. We didn't hear you, Lori. I started to, but I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat it?
How about nobody has bills?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. And maybe that's the direction we have to go, right? Maybe maybe we are doing this thing to ourselves, Maybe I don't know. I mean, we're in the point in time where there's a lot more open magical thought in the world and non-suppressed magical thought, if you will.
Makes me think of the utopia like in Avatar.
Right? Go ahead, Dan. I know you're on mute and wanted to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say, and you know me, I like to go and be the devil's advocate a little bit and play that part a little bit. And I know for me and my faith, I know that I believe in, and the way I'm looking at it and how I'm kind of looking at it a little bit now is maybe in learning and having, for lack of a better way, the things that we're told not to do are put there to tell us that yes, these are the things you should be focused on, this, on love, on this, on treating this and going with love and things like that. But then us being here and not knowing better and not understanding that because we're not fully you know in our true self, back in connectedness with God or the universe or however. So we tend to do those things because like anything, a lot of times for me, you get told not to do something. Well, I want to do that now, kind of, or test it out, or see if that's really true. And then we find out kind of that yes, that's true, and then we have to kind of jump back and revert and go, okay, I'm learning from that and stuff. And sometimes we have to constantly relearn it until, like as I've gotten older, I'm realizing that a lot of doing those type of things or being in that moment does not get me where I want to be or make me feel good about myself. And so in that sense, I think that's how I'm using that and kind of believing in that and going with that. But I also um, am liking what you were saying about, the youth of today and stuff. But I also want to go back to what you were saying about, you know, uh, family and ancestors. At that point in time, that's kind of how things were then. So they hadn't reached where we are at today with what we know. So maybe back then, going through what they were going through, part of their bliss would be moving out west or moving or getting that homestead or something to where yes they could be away from the big crowds in back east at that time, because as we migrated west, and so in some ways some of them were following their bliss and following, you know taking on the trials of having to stake out land and deal with the wild animals and deal with this. But for them that was part of the joy and the freedom and being, so to speak, their own boss and their own person, their own, and having more say in you know what what they were doing. Kind of like a lot of us are wanting to have a like me. I'm I'm really loving that I'm kind of pretty much my own boss. I'm really loving that freedom, but I also have to get myself up every day and go and do what I need to do in order to. But I don't wake up with that trudging feeling of, oh, I got to go deal with people, some of these people I don't want to deal with and stuff. Yes, as I'm driving, and I'm sure Catherine can attest to this, sometimes you get people that you're just like, oh, I can't wait to get you out of my car. Just go get your energy, take your energy. You're just, and I've had it, quite a few that, and it's like, I'm just like, okay, God, I just can't wait to get you out of my car. The whole atmosphere will change, and things like that. But the freedom and the ability and the joy and some of the freedom I feel since I've done what I've done has really been empowering and really, giving me more self um, strength for myself to be willing to jump and do some things that I think 20 years ago I wouldn't have done because when I was younger, there was a time where I just wanted to, I didn't have a lot of money. I wanted to move to Arizona, become an in state resident there because I really wanted to go to ASU. But my mom said, well, do you have this much? What type of money do you have? What about this? What about this? And it got in my head and I never did it. So while I don't regret, the life I've had and the people I've, had come into my life and the friendships and the love and the things I had, but I also wonder what could have happened or what, you know, could I've gotten to where I am now in a way, maybe in another city, another town, another place, but could I have gotten to the same feelings and same knowledge and the same, you know, the place where I'm at now through that channel. And it's kind of, like one of those things where sometimes, listening to somebody that you say is older and wiser, sometimes they're just doing something because of their own fears and rather than trusting you and letting you go out and set your own path, I guess for, to find and overcome those fears that somebody else placed on you in a sense, and then I took on, and so I stayed here, did what I did here. So now it makes me want to, look back and go, I wish, in a way, I wish I could see what could have happened, but at the same time, I don't because I don't want that to end up having been better than where I'm at now too. So it's, but sometimes I wish that when I was younger, I would have had a little more fortitude and a little more self assurance and a little more non judgmentalness of myself and judging my own abilities and my own strength and ability to survive, because I'm learning that when I'm, like what I did this last year, I had no guarantees, about what I was doing, but I just did it. And I think that's something that I think as we get older, we tend to look back on and go, well, what if I would have, had the strength or uh, ability or, to do what I really wanted to do back then, like some of the younger generation do now.
Well, guys, we are way past the top of the hour, and I know we could keep on talking about this. I certainly could. But we really need to wrap it up because I actually have an appointment at noon that I need to get to. So, unless you have a short final thought you want to add before we wrap up, anybody have a final thought?
I'll just say something super quick. I just want to let you guys know, because I know we've had discussions about, are we reaching enough people? That, should we keep doing this? Blah, blah, blah. That, well, of course, we all know we should. But I just want to let you know that these conversations continue off screen, like when I went to Healing Circle last Sunday, perfect situation where somebody interpreted someone else's behavior to assume that that person was non-loving to them, and I was able to relay the conversation that we had, the simple thing about talking during commercials or talking during the show, and how half of us thought that talking during the show was fine and half of us thought that talking during the show was not fine. And if you could have seen the light bulb that went off in this girl's head when I told this simple little example of our mastermind, it was like she had never considered that somebody that it could be interpreted in a different way than what she was. So I just want to let you guys know that it's good work, and I love you, and have a great week.
Oh, that's
I
so
love
awesome.
that. And I just wanted to let you know, Samantha, it's only 9:14, so you have plenty of time to get there.
I know if I was out there in Arizona, I would, right? But I'm not. I'm in Indiana, and it's 11:15 for me. So,
I'll make it even better. It's only 8:14.
right, yeah. If I could do the time travel thing real quick, if we had teletransporters or whatever, I zoom, boom. Uh, Jason, did you want to jump out and say anything? I see you're unmuted now.
I think that was great what Catherine mentioned there, that what we do does have an impact, or can have an impact, and if you're willing to share it. I liked what Dan was saying too, and I liked that he took action and just went ahead and got moving on it, and when he made that decision, he created a whole new opportunity and a whole new reality for himself. I think that's really powerful. When you guys were talking earlier, there's so many thoughts that came in, and I couldn't really pin down one thing, but except for a thought that I think we've all probably heard, the question or statement that when we fill in the blank of I'll be happy when fill in the blank, and how many of us are having difficulty filling in that blank, or misconstruing what that needs to be, instead of just enjoying the moment and enjoying the journey and making the decisions, and you know trying to see through other people's eyes, and understand that, hey, things could be aren't always a reflection of the way that we've thought things were in the past anyway. So just such a great discussion. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful being here. Have a great weekend.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, for adding that. We all do tend to think that we can't have happiness until we've accomplished something, and then that becomes that never-ending path of accomplishment that you never get there. You never get there because you're like, oh, okay, well, I got this thing, and it's kind of okay. Well, I got to get something new. I got to get more advanced. I got to do more, and it's always this continuous thing of trying to get more. When in reality, we can sit here right here and now and be happy if we choose to, if we say, if we just acknowledge what we already have. And, and I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, just being appreciative, that's not enough because I'm not like trying to get something. So I'm not doing it right or but yet what's wrong with simply appreciating what you have? I mean, there's nothing because it brings us happiness. So if the goal isn't to be happy and it's just to accumulate stuff and that doesn't really make us happy, does that even make sense? So, okay, guys, I just wanted to wrap it up. I did want to mention though, Catherine and I, the fact that the conversation went on elsewhere. And, but I also want to mention to those of you who are watching that the conversation a lot of times once we go off the live stream still continues in the background. We still keep on talking when we have time. So if you want to be a part of that kind of after party, then you've got to just jump on here on the Zoom when we post the link there, and then you can participate with us and share your thoughts, and then afterwards be a part of the after conversation. So that's it for today, guys. So if you're watching, then please click like on this video and share a comment. Tell us what you thought about what we talked about. And if you are on YouTube, also like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can get updated each time that we upload a new video. And if you're in our Facebook group, make sure the notifications are turned on so you see when we post in here, and then you'll know when our live streams are. So with that, guys, have an awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.